Good evening. Thanks everyone for coming tonight. We have a much better showing from the school administration than we do from our board today. But we have a couple of board members that are sick, and Vince's daughter is in the state high school volleyball tournament, so we gave him a pass to watch her and cheer her on. We're going to prepare tonight for our November 1st school board meeting. The invocation of the pledge will be by Mr. Kane. Appalachia High School Junior ROTC will present the colors. We'll approve the minutes. We'll approve the agenda. We'll have some committee reports. Superintendent will have some recognition. So we'll have quite a bit of recognition. Good night. We may or may not have any visitors or requests to appear before the board. We'll start out with Dr. Green.
Okay, the communications report is there for you to review as always, and unless you have questions, I'll let that report stand as it is.
Houston.
I just have a few invoices paid between $10,000 and $24,999 for the month of October. Tech Optics out of the general fund for $14,729. For PDC security camera replacements, 35 of those cameras. The next one is Cengage Learning, probably mispronounced that. General fund, $12,622 for the purchase of AP Human Geography textbooks for Appalachia High School, 75 of those. And then Southern Computer Warehouse paid out of the general fund, $19,976 for environmental probes for data closets, 89 of those, and that's just district-wide. That's it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Pearl.
Good evening. We'll look at some pictures of our new elementary school. Big takeaway here is the white cover you see there, that's our roof. And we're only missing one corner of that building. So we're in terrific shape, being here in the end of October to be that far along. The first window went in today. They've got covers on all the other windows. So we're dried in. Got a parking lot out there for subs to come in and work and stay dry, and just in a really good position. There's some restrooms there, and inside a classroom, finished paint has begun in one part of the building. Michelle, if you back up just a little bit, that's the future athletic facilities grading there in the top. If you go back one more, that's the pad for our future middle school in that top, well, in both pictures there. So just can't say enough about Kendall Dutton, Charles Black Construction, Cunningham, Forian, Matthews, Moore, Breedlove Land Planning. I mean, you don't get to that point on accident. A lot of planning and effort has us in a really good spot there.
That's it. Good news. Thank you. Dr. Moulton.
I'd like to welcome Ms. Sherry Perry to the podium. She's going to give us an update on our district-wide mentoring program.
Good evening, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. We've been working really hard on the mentor program this year, and I want to share with you some of the activities that we have been engaged in. We are, next page. We have spent all of last year, 21-22 school year, planning and just looking at the mentor program, seeing how, where it stood after the pandemic. Pandemic taught us a lot of things. And so we want to take a good look at that and make some really good plans. One of the first things that I want to share with you is the technical assistance that we have been able to take advantage of. Technical assistance is available through Mentor Georgia. Mentor Georgia is a part of the National Mentoring Affiliate. It was an affiliate of the National Mentoring Program, and is located at the Fanning Institute at UGA. So it's a great resource for us. We regularly have meetings, and it's just an easily accessible group of people to assist. Mentor Georgia is part of the 26 is a member of a 26 mentor affiliates group. The efforts are focused on enhancing the quality of mentoring programs, connecting us across the state, providing access to leadership and professional development, and it serves as a clearinghouse for training and resources and public awareness. Some of the regular activities that we're involved in are bagels and best practice. We'll have a breakfast meeting once a month, and we'll talk about elements of effective practice for mentoring. Now, in your folders, you have a checklist for the elements. This is a 92-page document, but you have like 3 pages, I think it is. It's sort of a synopsis of what those are. And so each month, they focus on one of those elements. There are also lunch and learn opportunities where they discuss a different professional topic of interest to those of us who are attending. And then we have a time for networking and fellowship with the virtual coffee hours. So these have been really good for me to be able to connect with other mentor leaders in the state and find programs like ours that are school-based. There are not many. Most of these programs are nonprofits, and many of them are focused on a particular group of students. For instance, maybe young ladies from age 12 to 18 with something in common among them. So they are very specific in who they serve. Whereas ours, we are more focused on creating relationships between adults and students in our schools. Okay, so another source of technical assistance that I have received is through a technical assistance grant awarded by the Department of Juvenile Justice and the National Mentoring Resource Center. This gave me access to someone from Mentor Maine. He and I met virtually for several weeks at the end of the school year in 21. And we looked at our policies, we looked at our documents, we looked at the processes that we follow. And I felt pretty good about what we had in place. It's just that we need to build those out some. So it's like we had good bones, we need a little more meat on them. So that's what we've been focusing on this past year, is figuring out what that looks like. It provided a lot of good feedback, gave me sample forms, sample policies and documents, and it was just really, really helpful. The second thing that I did last year was I pulled together a community-based mentor planning committee. And I chose these people because they had interest in the mentor program. You'll see on the screen there, Todd Faulkner, Tiffany Ring, both of New Path. Deidre Blakely, she has been a mentor and is currently a mentor in the system. And Candy Fox was a former mentor coordinator for Russell Middle School and is now with the Barrow County Family Connection. Then Stacy Dupre and Heather Enfield, who's no longer with the school system, they made up the original committee, and I shared this information with Dr. Moden, and she was so gracious to join our committee and give some insights that she was able to also, say, we have this issue, can you help us with that? And she's able to help us with that. So that was really great having her join. And then the graduation specialist came along as well. So this committee worked all year working and, hang on, I think I missed a page. No, I didn't. Okay, so our goal that we came up with for 2022 is just to increase the number of mentors participating in the program. So we're going to focus on recruitment, monitoring, and support. And I just wanted to show you how many we had. We had 108 mentors right before the shutdown for the pandemic. We had 47 all of last year. And this year, this says 21. We actually now, this report was for last month. We now have 43. So we've about doubled that number since last month. I asked the mentor coordinators at the schools what their need is. There is currently a need for about 25 more mentors, and they're all working hard, and as am I, to recruit those individuals. The next slide shows the actions that the committee took. We identified challenges, we decided what actions we were going to take for those, and we've started to mobilize resources. So you see the first bullet under identifying challenges, that safety measures are also barriers. We have an in-school only program. You can only come certain times of the day, or you can only come when school is in session. And so that sometimes presents a barrier to people being able to come to mentor because they have to come during the workday. And so it might be that their employer is able to let them go for an hour, but maybe not the hour that a student can be seen. So sometimes that is a barrier for us. Because we are an in-school program, we don't have the flexibility that a lot of nonprofit organizations have. For instance, we don't allow students to go to McDonald's with their mentor. We don't have, they just don't have the same kind of access. They don't have nighttime meetings and groups and things like that. And meeting space, you know, our schools are full, so that sometimes is a premium. So we created a new flyer to help with recruitment. You have a copy of one of those in your folders. We updated our website. We've updated all of our documents. Everything is online at this point. We created a planning timeline, and we carried out a pre-planning mentor program kickoff to introduce all the mentor coordinators at the schools to the new documents and the new processes that are online. So resources that we have, New Path has come along as a partner, is offering meeting space and help with recruitment for mentors. We received a grant from the Athens Area Community Foundation. Actually, Barrow County Family Connection received that grant, and for our program in particular. So we've used that for mentor program kickoff, mentor training, and mentor program supplies. And then the third thing that we've been looking at is the mentor program timeline. So as I said, in your folder, you have the 6 elements. We're focusing on 2, and we chose these because this is where the schools said we need the most help. First, how do we find mentors? And how do we recruit them? And second, how do we keep them? So we're focusing on standards 1 and 5. The other are screening, training, matching and initiating, and closure. And we will get to those, but we're focusing on these this year. We have laid out some recruitment activities. We have promotional activities planned and appreciation activities for our mentors. And some of the things that we've been working on, we've moved the program applications and orientation online. Orientation is not quite online yet, but it will be. We've had in-person orientation dates. We have one more coming up in November for this semester. I recently was invited by the Mentor Georgia Executive Director to serve on a panel discussion about our mentor program, and with particular attention to reach scholars in mentoring. We want to create some mentor-mentee profiles to help with recruitment. We are going to plan a conference-style mentor training. That's where we're going to use that grant funding. And some of the recruitment activities that we've employed, some of our school representatives have been out to meetings. For instance, Heyman Morris, Stacey Dupre there, she attended an economic development sponsored coffee hour. She's done that twice now. She's holding her own orientations. We have people who are looking, asking the teachers, who are your active parents, and inviting them to come and be part of this. And asking parents to help open doors in places where they are interacting with other adults. So, and the last page that I have here, these are links to our Barrow County Mentor page, the mentor application, if you would like to take a look at that, our orientation dates, the elements of effective practice, the 92-page document is there, and then a link to Mentor Georgia itself. And then that's my presentation. Do you have any questions about the program?
Sure, a couple quick ones. I may have missed this, but what's the monthly time commitment that you expect from the mentor?
Ideally, we would like someone to commit to meet with a student 1 hour once a week.
Okay.
Sometimes that's difficult because if you only have an hour from lunch, you might need 15 minutes on either side to get back and forth. So, you know, we will work with mentors around their schedules, but we don't want to see them come less than twice a month, just for continuity's sake.
And then is there a certain demographic, age, ethnicity that you're working on recruiting?
We need to recruit men. Men, yes, that is a constant request. We need men. We have a lot of women, and we do have a few men, but we have a lot of boys, and we try to match male, female, when we can. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Send it to us. Great. 3 of us right here.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Sherry, and special thanks also to all the partners you pulled in to work with this too. The more hands make easier work.
It does. And they were really excited to be part of that. And before I get up the podium to remind everyone which signing day is Thursday at 9
Right,
o'clock.
9 o'clock.
Hope to see you there.
I'm happy tonight to have Tiara Minsinger and Megan McNally to talk with us and give us an update on the recruitment.
Evening Board, Dr. McMichael. Thank you for allowing us a few minutes tonight to share with you some of the work that we've been doing with our new teachers through our new teacher induction program. Before we talk about the program, I wanted to give you a little bit of background information on the program itself. So in 2018, we had an advisory committee that was made of principals, assistant principals, and teachers. And they came together to develop a basic framework for a new teacher induction program. During this initial development phase, we drafted the goals and the components of the program, and they remain the same today. The goals are in front of you, and they are to improve teaching performance, to increase the retention of our promising new teachers, to communicate the norms and culture of our school system, to promote personal and professional well-being of teachers, and to involve our experienced teachers in the transmission of those skills. So this year we have coined as our year of discovery, as we're taking the program that was originally developed in 2018, gathering feedback from our schools so that we can develop the best program we can moving forward for our new teachers. So I am thrilled tonight to introduce you to Tiara Minsinger, who is our new recruitment and induction coordinator. She's going to share with you the components of the program, where we are now, and where we look to go in the future. Tiara.
Thank you, Megan. I am so excited to be here tonight to continue conversations surrounding the teacher induction program. As Megan said, the program began in the 2018 school year. And since then, we've gone through a global pandemic. And so our schools have experienced less district involvement. And they really built the program into what it is today. And so that is why it is very important that we have this year of discovery to really build that consistent level of support across our district. And so I want to share with you our timeline and our goals for this school year. In June of this year, I began my role as recruitment and induction coordinator, and I reviewed the current plan, and I repackaged the plan to reflect the current climate and new technology. I shared those drafts with our principals for their review and to get their feedback. In August, we had our induction kickoff for our new teachers, and we shared the program with them. For the last 2 months, we've been meeting with our schools individually to get their specific feedback. And in the spring, we hope to form advisory teams consisting of our coaches, our mentors, and our new teachers to get their feedback as well. And our goal is to redraft the program this summer with all of that feedback and present that to our administrative leaders. So as you can see, our goal is to really build a program together based on the feedback of all of our stakeholders. So I wanted to share with you now some of the components of the new teacher induction program. In 2018, the program consisted of every first-year teacher having a mentor for a minimum of 1 year. And the purpose of that is to orient all of our new teachers to our Barrow Bold culture and ensure that they're all aware of the resources and assistance available in our school district. The program also consisted of reflections and peer observations because we know that our teachers grow from reflecting on their own practice. So we wanted to provide them with those opportunities and also to have their coaches and mentors give them feedback. Our schools also conducted monthly group meetings, which consisted of discussions based on school-specific needs. And they facilitated professional learning sessions on some of our district initiatives. This year, as I've come on board, I've been able to be available to offer additional layers of support for the program, starting with our asynchronous or on-demand professional development, which is housed in our Microsoft team. Each month, I prepare research-based instructional materials for our new teachers that they can access throughout the school year. I'm also developing a district mentor program that currently consists of monthly meeting logs that include suggested talking points so that our mentors can really facilitate those conversations between the mentor and the new teacher. I coordinate live district professional development like the one in September, where our new teachers have the opportunity to hear from our director of special education and our district gifted and ESOL coordinators. They learn collaboration strategies on how to collab with their co-teachers in the classroom. And I'm also available for one-on-one new teacher support. This year, our district has about 70 teachers that are coming from different alternative teaching pathways, and they often require additional support. And so I'm available. I send out a poll each month to these new teachers and just ask what additional support they need. And I'm available to meet with them as needed. For example, I had one teacher reach out because they kept hearing the phrase anchor chart from their colleagues, and they didn't have any idea what that was. And so I was able to provide that teacher with some instructional resources, but also connect them with some of the teachers in our district that really have expertise with that instructional strategy. And so as you can see, yes, this is a year of discovery, but we're also making an impact this year. And that's evident in the feedback on our message boards and our Microsoft team, but also by just listening to our teachers who are participating in that one-on-one support and using those on-demand resources. Our teachers love not only viewing those presentations that are available, but watching their colleagues in action. I was able to go out and record our 2021 District Teacher of the Year this month, and she modeled one of the instructional strategies that were presented in those resources. Our teachers are also consistently signing up for one-on-one support, and I love being available for that. I had one teacher recently sign up because he was looking for some more engaging assessments, and he shared his lesson plans, and we worked together to create 3 different assessments based on that learning for the next week. And so just being available for that one-on-one new teacher support, and I think he definitely appreciated it, and I think it's what sets us apart in Vero. So I thank you for your time today, and as we continue to get results from this year of discovery, we're excited to come back next year when we have more of our program together, but I thank you for your time. Are there any questions about the program?
Chair, I have one. The one-on-one support that you're providing where you hooking teachers up with mentors in the system, what is the average classroom experience of a mentor? Do you have a specific, do you want 5 years experience before these folks are working together or what?
So right now we're developing that mentor program. Right here now, our principals and our admin chosen those mentors. We don't have that criteria set up right now, but that's something that we're establishing this year. Right now, those have already been chosen by our principals and they're connected at our school level. I don't choose those mentors.
Okay, so there's not a set process.
Not at this time. We are working on it this year.
Okay.
Are you collaborating well with the administrators? I mean, are you getting good buy-in and they're part of this?
That is vital. That's very important that we have their support, and I love they're always sending me emails and reaching out and always available. Our monthly meetings that we're doing right now, just coming to their schools and asking what their needs are, their suggestions, they're really helping us build a better program from that feedback.
This is where the rubber meets the road. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Thompson.
Good evening, everyone. It has actually been a while since I've got to stand up here live and speak to y'all, and I missed y'all. So I'm excited to be back up here speaking with you this evening. This is a new departmental report that we're going to have going forward, and the specific purpose of this report is to highlight areas of our strategic plan. We put our strategic plan in place back in the spring of 21. We've had about a year with it. It was a tough year with COVID kind of resurging, and so we're trying to refocus back on our plan. And so what this particular report will do is on many months, we'll highlight specific areas of the plan that we're working on, making progress on. Additionally, we'll use this as the springboard to give you guys reports periodically about where we are with the implementation of various strategies and initiatives within the plan. We should have the first one of those completed after the first semester. So what I'm here to do tonight is to highlight one specific area of the plan that we have actually completed. It's not, done forever. We're going to continue to build it out, but we're pretty excited about it. So we wanted to share that out. When we did the plan, one of the areas we had was communication and culture. And there's a specific area, improving the consistency and transparency of our communication. We always want to be with our community, with our stakeholders, with our Board of Ed. We want to be as transparent as we possibly can be. And one of the initiatives that was identified through the strategic planning process was building a public data dashboard that would enable the public to see key indicators about our district, help them to see the students that we serve, the programs that we use, some of our fiscal data, our employee data, things like that. Things we frequently get requests on anyway that we can point people to instead of having to spend our time pulling those. And we wanted that to be data that would update regularly in real time, and it wouldn't be something that somebody has to push out periodically. In March of last year, the board approved funding for us to purchase custom data viz through the Tableau software. And this was built out through that purchase. So we thank the board for that investment. It has been a very wise one, we believe. We're going to show you some public stuff tonight. We have a far more robust system internally that is inward facing, that has student data. A lot more things than you're going to see here that we've been able to build through that same purchase. And we may highlight some of that later on in the year. So we went live with our public data dashboard today. Rochelle has pulled that up on the screen. I am quite aware of the fact that you guys don't have mouses, and those are not touch screens in front of you. And I think John would appreciate it if you not put your fingerprints on them. So as I go through these, if you have specific things you want me to slow down on, because I do want to kind of move quickly through these, but if you have specific things that, well, hold up, I want to see that a little bit more, please let me know. Just jump in, throw something in my head, we'll stop. So this is available on our website as of today. You can find it under the About section when you first log in. There you have the link in the actual item. And we currently have 5 different dashboards built out. We're going to build more. This is just where we started with. So the first one, very simply, Rochelle, if you'll click on student demographics, we want to be able to tell the public what our schools look like demographically, enrollment-wise. So what you're seeing is this is as of, and by the way, this data updates about weekly, every few days. So you're looking at data that was pulled as of this week, and it will be not live. We can't quite get live, but we can get it pretty close. You can see the total enrollment at the top. You can see the school enrollment in the upper left quadrant. You can see enrollment by grade level, and you can see the percentage ethnicity, race, and also the percentage of gender. So let's pick on some of the schools. Who do I see here? Let's go to County Line Elementary. Let's start with the Critters. And if I drill down on the drop down, I can actually see their data. It'll specific to them. But here's the cool thing. If I click on a particular grade level, Rochelle, click on 3rd grade, please. If I do that, it will automatically update, and I can actually see that change in real time. I can look at their demographics drilled down. Now that works in any one of these. If I want to go back to the surface level, click it again. Now let's click on males. So go over to the far over in the bottom right. If I click on males, that will update to show me the demographics for males. So all that's perfectly interactive. Now you'll see at the top, there's a little tab that says enrollment trend. We've been talking this past week about growth at many of our schools. So what you're looking at, now these numbers will look slightly different because enrollment is always a moving target. So when we do this kind of data, we're always comparing the first Tuesday in October, essentially, which is our FTE count date. So what you can see is the trend in Barrow County enrollment over the past 6 years. You can see the data for Appalachia, but I can go up to that upper right corner and I can change that to County Line like we were just looking at. And I can see their enrollment trend over the course of 6 years. And that data won't change. We've already had our count date for this year. The first tab we showed you will update every week. This one is already hit for this year. When it updates next year, we'll have more data in there. But that's just a quick look at school and system demographics. You'll close that one, Rochelle, and go back. Students by program. We sometimes have questions about the percentage of students in our district that are special education, receiving gifted services, early intervention program, Section 504, which is another measure of disability. And you can see this just gives you the overall percentage for the district in each of those categories. And once again, I can use the little drop down. This time, let's pick on Heyman Morris. I see my friend JB over there. So let's pick on Heyman Morris, and that will update to show you Heyman Morris's particular demographics for that. So if you want to look at gifted rates across schools, special education rates across schools, you can use that tool, and that again updates regularly as we go through. So those are just demographics. Now we're going to get into some specific indicators. So click on graduation rate. The graduation rate for school year 2022 was just released about a week ago. We've already updated the data in here. So what you're looking at, that blue line, I'm happy to say, is Barrow County Schools. The orange line is the state of Georgia as a whole. So you can see the trend in the graduation rate across multiple years. If I click the drop down up top, I can add in Appalachia and Winterboro High School, and very soon BASA, as they will be graduating their first class this year. And I can bring that in or take elements out, and I can see comparisons across here. Now, this next piece is the reason you pay good money for a system like we bought, because it's fairly easy to do what I just showed you in a tool that you build a dashboard with. You'll click, keep on the graduation rate, Michelle. Click on the comparison map. There you go. This is every school district in the state of Georgia mapped out by their graduation rate and color coded. So the darker the green, the higher the rate. The darker the red, the lower the rate. If Rochelle, if you'll hover over any of those, it will show you the graduation rate for every district in Georgia as a comparison. Now, if you're like some folks are, you're geographically challenged and you're like, I'm not sure I know where Crisp County is, but I sure want to see their graduation rate. You can go up to the top, you can find them, and it will go ahead and you can choose whatever district you want to look at, and it will show you exactly where they're at. You can look at their graduation rate. That's the kind of ability to do that level of interactive mapping that you have to pay for the better tools. You can't cheap out to get that kind of thing. And we want to be transparent because this enables us to be honest with our community about where we stack up related to other districts and the state as a whole.
Dr. Thompson, is this available to everybody without any login credentials?
Yes, sir. It's available publicly on the website right now. No login required. Last two I want to show you, or I think you'll be very interested in, budget. Ms. Houston comes up here and displays a lot of budgetary data for you. This is data she has vouched for. I always want to make sure whenever I put budgetary data up that it has Jennifer Houston's approval. Some of what you're going to see up here are things that, like Dr. McMichael puts in your at a glance. You have the current budget for the current school year. You have our sources of revenue, at least for the general fund and special sources. But you'll notice there's some different years here. You notice where it says local funding 2021. The reason sometimes that is staggered is because before the state will release public data for other districts, they have to go through a long vetting process. So the most recent data we have that we can compare to other districts in terms of our budgetary allotments, revenue spending, things like that, is school year 21. At some point this year, probably around mid-year, they'll drop SY 22, and we will update this chart and let you know that we have. So click on the next tab over, Rochelle. So here's the first thing we're going to look at. This is a map. I believe it is defaulted. I can't read. I believe this is on revenue. So this is color coded based on revenue per district. So if you hover over any particular district, Rochelle, you'll see for SY21, you will see both their overall revenue per student, and you'll see their expenditure per student. If I want to change that color coding to be expenditure, I will go. You'll go up there and flip it. Sorry. Go back. There you go. Change that to, and that will update to show you expenditure per student, and the color coding changes based on that. Again, you can search for any particular district you want to look at, but that basically shows you relative to everybody else in the state where our expenditures and revenues fit. We can go deeper than that though. If you click on the next tab. This is expenditure in categories. And if you're wondering what these categories refer to, the tab after that, go ahead and click on that fourth tab now, Rochelle. That'll actually tell you what goes into each of these bins. So now go back to the third one. So what you can now do is, we get confused with Bartow County all the time. So let's see how we actually compare with them spending. I can bring that in and I can show you on a per, just click off anywhere and it'll go away. There you go. So now I can make a comparison to any school district. I can bring in 5, 6 comparisons if I want, and I can see on a per pupil basis how much we spend relative to other districts in each of these areas, which enables us to really get fine-grained comparisons. So we think that's a pretty powerful tool budgetarily to make those kind of comparisons. All right, to close that out, the very last one we're going to show you is personnel. We get a lot of questions about our personnel, about the race, ethnicity of our teaching staff, about the educational qualifications. So what you're looking at here is these are different categories of employees. Now you'll notice sometimes you see a fraction where you might see a 0.47. We do have part-time employees. We do have employees that may be split between two locations. That's why sometimes you'll see a half. So if you have an SLP who's split across two schools, they'll show up as a 0.5 for each of those schools. So click on a given school, Rochelle. Let's pick on, who can I pick on? You're picking on Derek. Let's go Winderberry High School. So if I click on that, that will update and show me all the breakdown for different employee categories at Winderberry High School. I can see you'll notice that the demographics in terms of the race and ethnicity of staff, all of that have also changed. Now, I might want to get more fine-grained than that. I might want to only look at teaching staff. So if I go to the very other filter, I can click on teachers, and that will then update to only show me the teaching staff at Winderberry High School. Again, updating all of those demographics to break into that. We get requests for this pretty frequently, and so this enables us to actually put this online. So now click on the second one. We also took the raw numbers here, so you can see in both certified and classified the total number of personnel. This fits into things like the attrition report that you're going to get with your personnel report this evening. This is the same numbers. But you can also see we bend, and you can see that like 53% of our staff are classroom teachers. You can also see additionally 20% of our staff are school support, which are paraprofessionals, instructional coaches, counselors, media specialists. We're very proud of the fact that 3/4, it's about 75% of our staff are those that are closest to the classroom. And that's not true in every district, I can tell you that. So that's a way to look at that, how we're actually personnel-wise allocating different people. Very last thing, teaching staff experience varies from school to school. So what you're looking at here is the average years of experience of certified teachers at each of these schools. And you can see this varies a lot, and that creates different challenges for staff and principals depending on where their staff is. Again, there's variation even within those averages, but you can actually see the breakdown of which of our schools have the younger staff and which have staff with more experience. So again, that's just what we have currently. We're not going to stop with just that. We plan to build out more dashboards, put more data in there, update this regularly, but we think this is a way for us to be more transparent with the public, what our district looks like in terms of its students, in terms of its staff, in terms of how we're spending fiscal resources, how we're allocating personnel, all of that. So we think it's a cool thing. We appreciate you guys allocating the money for us to build this. We're pretty proud of it. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Great stuff.
I come from a banking environment.
Yeah.
We're used to dashboards
Sure.
like this, and this feels really good.
Yeah. And I can tell you, we have more that's inward facing. Schools have access to dashboards that we wouldn't put up here for obvious reasons, but we have some pretty powerful ones, and we're going to continue to build those out because it's a process. But we would not have been able to build these either internally or externally without the board believing in us that we would use those wisely. We think we have.
And I want to say I appreciate it because that's a question that we get a lot, is especially on the financial and things of that nature, and our transparency.
Sure.
And we can't be any more transparent.
Absolutely not.
I mean, this is great.
Dr. Thompson, these have print. I saw the little icons. Do they have print features at the top?
Yeah, you can download them as PDFs. You can there's nothing in the data that we're putting up there that is, individual students or anything like that, because we have to abide by federal laws about privacy. But yeah, you can download PDFs, Excel sheets with some of the data, things like that. So yeah, you can, and that's at the bottom. If you go down to the bottom, Rochelle, where it has the little drop down there, click on that one. That's the wrong one. See that far line.
I just got a PDF.
There it is. Okay. So yeah, you can choose that as a PDF and you can download that. And you'll be able to access that.
Build a monitor into that thing.
Any other questions?
No, again, I'm thrilled. This is something Matt and most folks up here know, this is something I wanted for years. And it's now, we got the technology and the expertise. I'm thrilled to have this out there. So this is good stuff, very bold. Thank you so much, you and your team.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, sir. All right, gonna move on to the consent agenda. Dr. Green, the policy revision.
It's always my favorite thing to do is to follow Matt Thompson introducing you to the dashboard with me and a policy revision. But, you know, we draw straws and this is the way it works. Under old business, last month, we came to you with the policy revision that was really necessitated by some bills in the legislature. And so policy revision BCBI for public participation in board meetings has been on the table since our last regularly scheduled meeting. We've had no public comment. And so we would ask that you bring that policy off the table and approve. And then related to that, if I'll proceed on to new business, I asked Rochelle, this is my sneaky way to get first on the action item agendas, is to put old business paired with new business, and then I get to go first. To put a procedure onto the first thing is new business, and this is rules of conduct for public participation in board meetings. These rules of conduct were in fact required by the same legislation. And while we typically would not ask you to approve procedures, there are a few exceptions, this being one of them. They asked that that every local Board of Education approve rules of conduct for public participation in board meetings. And so what you see there in front of you is our proposal. And I will kind of walk you through this a little bit. What we did here is take our existing procedures for public participation. We took the GSBA sample procedures. We kind of merged those, kept everything that we already had and added a few additional things. And just to kind of remind you of how this looks, anything in red is new. Anything with strike through was in the existing and is being removed. And then the typical black font was already in the procedures. So just to kind of walk you through, I won't read everything here, but I'll try to highlight for you what's here, and then I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have. So we have the change in the title to put rules of conduct in the title of this particular procedure, referencing back to the policy as well as to the legal code that sets the stage for these. We do remind people that in order to appear on the agenda and appear before the board, we ask that they submit a written request at least 24 hours in advance. And we go on to say that the board will set aside up to 30 minutes on the agenda of its regular meetings to hear comments from the public in accordance with these procedures. Then we go on to the second paragraph. We insert a section here in the middle of this paragraph to just remind everybody that while the meetings are open to the public, the purpose of the meeting is to conduct business of the school system, and members of the public are invited to participate only as allowed by board policy in these procedures. So that's kind of a reminder there. And then we've enumerated various expectations for conduct during these meetings. The first three were already in place. The first one reminding folks about submitting a request to appear before the board at least 24 hours in advance and to abide by the expectation, the rules. The second, talking about privacy and only bringing things that are not of a private nature to the main board meeting. There's other processes to manage complaints and grievances that may be specific to particular individuals. And then individuals and groups who have previously addressed the board may be denied the opportunity to come on the same topic again, and that the board would usually not respond in the meeting that comments are made. So those are all existing things. In addition to that, we've added a few things that are here that I will point out for you, and I'll do a little bit more reading here. Members of the public shall conduct themselves in a respectful manner that is not disruptive to the conduct of the board's business. Signs, flags, banners, audience outbursts, and other similar items or actions are prohibited inside the board meeting. The next one, each member of the public participating in the public comment section shall have no more than 3 minutes to speak. And then the chair, the board or the chair may further limit either the total time, which you recall was 30 minutes, or the length of individual comments during public participation at its discretion for the purpose of keeping the meeting moving and not extending the meeting unnecessarily. The bullet item number 6 is that only residents of the Barrow County School District, representatives of businesses or organizations located within the district, parents or guardians of students attending Barrow County schools, or school system employees may address the board during the time designated for public comment. And the main reason is that we want people to address the board who will be affected by the decisions in the business that is made by the board. And no group, no individual will be retaliated against in any manner whatsoever for speaking during public participation. All speakers shall address the board by first stating their names, and all remarks shall be made to the board as a body and addressed through the chair. Remarks shall not be addressed to individual board members. Speakers are asked to keep their remarks civil. The use of obscene, profane, vulgar, physically threatening, or abusive remarks will not be tolerated. Loud and boisterous conduct or comments by speakers or members of the audience are not allowed. And then number 9, the board will not respond to comments made by the speaker during public participation unless a member of the board chooses to ask a question. In that case, we ask the speaker of whom the question is being asked to remain at the microphone so they can answer questions, so that anyone who may be listening to the information that is picked up by the microphone will be able to hear that clearly. And then the last paragraph is really a paragraph about enforcement. And so by reading and acknowledge acceptance prior to speaking during public participation, speakers attest that they understand and will abide by these procedures. The chair of the board is responsible for enforcing these procedures. Those attending a meeting or speaking during public participation who violate these procedures will be warned by the chair. A continued violation may result in a speaker being asked to sit down. If any person attending a meeting refuses to follow these rules, disrupting the meeting, they will be asked to leave. And if they refuse, they will be escorted from the meeting room. And then such serious or repeated violations of the rules of conduct may result in an individual being prohibited from speaking during a board meeting for an appropriate period of time. Any attendee in violating laws of the state while on district property or attending a meeting of the board shall be subject to arrest by law enforcement if that applies. And so basically an enforcement is sort of a progressive approach. If we just simply give a warning and ask and remind the person what the rules are and ask them to abide by that, and they do so, that will be the extent of that. If they continue to refuse to abide by the rules of conduct, then that would escalate up to them being escorted from the room and prohibited for speaking for some length of time. So we would ask that this be placed, addressed at the upcoming board meeting. This is a procedure, does not have to lay on the table. So we would ask that you approve the rules of conduct as presented in the procedures BCBI-R (1) public participation in board meetings. And I will be happy to entertain questions.
No questions. We're going to keep it moving. Thank you. Consent agenda?
Well done.
Everybody good? Yeah. All right, Mr. Sinclair.
Good evening. Network switches will be required for work that's going to be performed this summer at Bethlehem, County Line, and Whiter Elementary during the renovations, and for new construction in the new elementary school, and for planned upgrades at the board office, maintenance, and transportation facilities. Because of the ongoing and worsening difficulties in obtaining technology, which I will elaborate on a little bit on my next item, we're initiating the purchase process now in hopes of receiving technology in time for the work to commence. So an RFP was posted and 7 responses were received by close of bid. Low bid respondent MXN met the terms of the RFP. They are not adversely listed in the sound.gov database, Matt. And they have done similar business with the district before. The financial impact is $136,000, 449 from various SPLOST/ITS construction and renovation budgets. So the superintendent is recommending authorizing the purchase of Aruba network switches from the low bid respondent MXN in the amount of $136,449.
Any questions?
No.
Consider, Jeff?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, this one's a little bit long. At the July 2020, the January 2021, and September 2021 work sessions, the board authorized ITS to waive normal purchasing regulations due to product scarcity and high competition for technology purchases from other organizations. This was one of the legacies of COVID and all the other things happening at the time. This authorization was subject to normal chain of command, oversight, and board reporting. This allowed us to rapidly purchase technology when needs and funds were identified and supplies were actually found. And previously, by the time regular protocols were followed, the supply of technology desired had been depleted before our approval process could be finished. The board approved a $100,000 cap to the first authorization, a $200,000 cap to the early 2021 authorization, and a $250,000 cap to the later 2021 authorization. And on the first one, we spent all of the available authorization, primarily on Chromebooks, webcams, headsets, as we were sending families home, students home to learn from home, and teachers had to teach. The early 2020 authorization we used most of. We used 162,000, leaving 38,000 of the authorization unused. And then we didn't end up using the final authorization at all. There never was a combination of need and funding and availability all at the same time. So any purchasing we did went through whatever lengthy process was involved. We continue to face significant difficulties in procuring technology, and recent events this month have made the situation significantly worse, prompting this renewed request. So in addition to the ongoing technology slowdowns, China is still shutting down whole cities when they have 3 cases of COVID. The situation in Ukraine, as a reminder, Ukraine is the supplier of half the world's neon gas. Neon gas is used to make lasers. Lasers make microchips. So the situation in Ukraine is affecting the technology industry. And the US just implemented new sanctions on China. The sanctions say that no American company can provide chip making technology to China. The impact was immediate. Apple immediately canceled a large memory chip order from China. American employees, high level American employees of Chinese companies resigned, and the situation is only going to get worse. That, of course, doesn't even consider whether China makes some kind of move on Taiwan. So the impact for the foreseeable future is a little grim. So as a reminder from the January 2020 request, one of the examples is we received requests from 2 schools to buy Chromebooks. We received a quote with the supply available. By the time we received the 2 additional quotes required, just 2 days later, the supply from the first vendor was no longer available. We're still waiting on network switches that we ordered 6 months ago. And the Aruba one that you just put on the consent agenda, the time frame to get those, again, is 12 months. We're hoping to get them in time to start work. So, and I guess I have some more examples. We've been trying to buy a cargo van for 2 years, and we've just finally given up. The last RFP we posted, we gave vendors 12 months to win the bid and then deliver the product to us. No one even bothered to submit a response, so we just kind of gave up. So as we work through this fiscal year and face the possibility of another peak of the pandemic, whatever that does, and the immediate reality of extreme volatile geopolitical circumstances, technology product scarcity is going to continue to be a serious problem. So we're asking the board to once again approve temporary purchasing discretion and flexibility to the ITS department. Again, I want to emphasize that although we're asking you to let us waive normal purchasing procedures, this will require superintendent approval. It will go through all the normal purchasing guidelines to the best of our ability. We will get multiple quotes. We'll go out for bid as possible and so forth. And we will have all the levels of oversight with Dr. Green, Dr. Moten, Ms. Houston, and of course, Dr. McMichael. And we won't use the discretionary authority unless absolutely necessary. So we are requesting Superintendent recommends authorizing the ITS department to waive normal board purchasing policies for the current fiscal year when necessary due to product scarcity, subject to grand total authorization cap of $250,000 and spending authority, subject to best efforts at competitive shopping as per board guidelines, normal approval loops, and normal board guideline for reporting.
Consent agenda?
Is this enough money to get you through the year?
It should be now.
Sure.
I will not be shy of coming back if it's not, but yes,
And then the funds that were left before, they go away. This is just one brand new.
This wasn't actually identifying any funds. It was only allowing us the shopping. So the departments, the organizations have to still go through their budgeting. They have to have had the funds.
Right.
We're not allocating funds here. We're allocating an authorization to spend funds
Okay,
if the funds exist.
all right. But the 3 approvals we had before that you didn't completely exhaust, what's the status of that 288, if I'm reading that correctly?
So there were no funds allocated in those prior authorizations either. So
Right.
He can't use the prior ones.
Yeah,
that's my
Right now.
question.
they've expired. They've expired.
Yeah, the
I'm sorry,
authorization
yes,
expired.
we committed to the board a time frame,
Gotcha.
and that time frame has exhausted.
Thank
I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
That's okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you. As part of our district's migration from the Google Data Suite to the Microsoft 365 platform, migration of user data from Google to Microsoft for our user base has been a primary goal and concern. The migration is not a simple task for a variety of reasons and will be very time consuming and frustrating for our users to do on their own. And for instance, manually migrating data does not automatically recreate sharing permissions. So if you created a document for a classroom and 10 of your peers are using that same document for their classroom delivery, and we move the document from Google to Microsoft, those 10 people no longer have access. You have to manually go back and recreate their access for that if we move things manually. It will be likewise extremely time consuming and difficult for ITS to migrate our user base as well. We've been vetting different vendor tools to automate this process and have concluded that CloudFuse is the most cost-effective solution, encompassing both the functionality needed, for a smooth migration. I'm just going to highlight some of the benefits. So manually migrating data for roughly 2,000 staff and 15,000 students would just be a full-time job, requiring several weeks and months. I don't think it's possible to do in weeks, it would be months to complete, and prone, of course, to human error. Automating the process with CloudFuse will relieve the district staff of this burden, allowing us to do all the other things we do, requiring no action by staff or students. CloudFuse will give us reporting. That was one important item for us. The reporting and confirmation that the data migrated successfully, and it'll generate exception reports for anything that didn't, that requires some form of human attention. CloudFuse will automatically recreate the sharing permissions, and it will also automatically migrate and convert docs, sheets, and slides, which are in the Google format, to Word, Excel, and PowerPoint Microsoft format, so that not only will the data be moved, it'll be ready to be used by the teachers instead of them having to do any kind of manual copy and pasting to create new documents. CloudFuse has a very good reputation in the industry. If you're familiar with Gartner Group, on their review section, CloudFuse had a 4.9 out of 5 rating with them. They're not adversely listed in the SAM.gov database, and their services are sold direct, sole source. Pricing is based on the amount of users and data to be transferred. We received a quote based on our user base and the amount of data we had to move of $51,100. Because we are procuring the services now, and I'll back up a bit about how good CloudFuse is, they're in such demand, you've got to reserve a place in line early because it takes months to free up their servers and capacity to be able to respond to your requests. So we have to do this early. So because we are procuring the services now, there is some uncertainty as to what our final count of users and data will be when the services commence. I can't imagine we're going to grow in our user base particularly, but the amount of data our users have as they continue to go through the school year and create more documents, the data may grow. And accordingly, we are requesting an additional $5,000 authorization to allow for any data growth that might occur between now and when services commence. I honestly don't think we'd use it, but I wanted that buffer just in case yearbook staffs put out a bunch of videos and suddenly we have a large amount of data increase or something along those lines. So the financial impact is $51,100 That's the calculated cost for our existing data set as of when we got the quote. A $5,000 buffer for any data growth between now and the migration time, for a maximum total of $56,100 from ITS SPLOST funds. The superintendent recommends authorizing the purchase of data migration services from vendor CloudFuse for a total amount of $51,100 with an overage allowance of $5,000 for a maximum total of $56,100.
Questions? Consent agenda? Good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It doesn't look like Greg's here. Joe, you gonna?
Okay, this first item is HVAC controls upgrade at Statham Elementary School. BCS maintenance needs to upgrade the HVAC controls at Statham. The existing controls run a platform which is outdated. It's not supported by the manufacturer. It's not consistent with other schools in our system. Upgrading the controls will improve network communication between different equipment at the school for HVAC, lighting, water heaters, fans, intrusion alarms, and other equipment tied into the EMS. Barrow County Schools utilizes iView as a sole source for energy management controls. CCG, or Commercial Controls Group, is the only dealer for iView in our area. Utilizing iView as the only energy management software provides reliable communication between many different types of equipment and allows our technicians to become knowledgeable with that platform. We're satisfied with CCG equipment and service. All that said, we're asking the superintendent to recommend entering into a purchase agreement with CCG for the purchase of HVAC energy management controls for Statham Elementary in the amount of $45,410. This includes a $5,000 contingency and it would be funded through ESSER.
Questions?
Are our other schools using the system?
This would get everybody but Winder Barrow High School
Okay.
on that platform. And when we renovate Winder Barrow, we'll be able to incorporate this into that project.
Is that agenda?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, these next two items deal with mobile classroom units ahead of next school year. And I want to preface both of these by saying that this does not mean a decision on how our new elementary school will be populated has been made. We're just trying to make sure we're prepared for whatever decision the board might make. Charles Black Construction was approved as construction manager at risk for non-state funded projects in November of last year. For projects in excess of $25,000, guaranteed maximum price is to be brought to the board for approval. Upon review of student population information, available capacity at our schools, it's been determined by system staff that up to 7 single-wide mobile classroom units and 1 classroom pod unit may be necessary for next school year. In order to provide the best possible chance to receive these mobile units and have them installed prior to next school year, an order must be placed by November 9 of 2022. We're asking the superintendent to recommend a guaranteed maximum price of $1,300,000 for Charles Black Construction to provide labor and material for site work and utility provisions necessary to prepare for installation of mobile classroom units and or to relocate and assemble or dispose of existing mobile classroom units.
Questions?
Now, this is for the new elementary school, put them over there.
That's possible. It's a possibility. You know, if the decision is made to have a 4th and 5th grade academy, we've talked about possibly having a pod at Auburn. We're not advocating for that. We're just trying to get prepared for that if that's a decision the board chooses to make.
These aren't school specific at this point.
That's right.
Well, I have to say, I would much rather see let's go ahead and get this approved now, so that if we do need these, which we're going to somewhere,
Regardless. That's what the ask is.
So that's,
Yeah, but I would eventually, we're spending that kind of money, and that's just one, that's for how many? You said 7?
Well, pod,
Well, for the third, that money, we're talking about 7? Is that what you said, 7?
7 individual mobile units and a pod. And
And
that
a
pod
pod.
that pod could be 9 classrooms or 12 classrooms. Those decisions have not been made yet.
Okay, but my whole thing is if we look at these kind of numbers, the long term, I'd rather be spending taxpayer money and add additions, real classrooms out there instead of putting kids in pods or whatever you want to call them.
But
You know, they're safer. In my opinion, they're safer. So when we keep moving these around long term, I'd like us to start looking into that long term, start looking in that direction.
Sure. Well, I agree, and I think that's everyone's preference, but the state funding always trails our growth. So we can't draw down state funds to help us build those classrooms. So we have to have mobile units out in front of the school
I
before we can
understand
get
that.
state
We're
money.
talking about building a new school that we already spent money that we've had, and we spent it 100% of local funds. I think we need to, and state's not giving us money on these either. We need to start, if we're gonna spend local funds on stuff like this, we need to spend local funds to put real classrooms out there, is my opinion, to make sure these kids are safer. That's my opinion.
The only thing though,
These kids
to
say.
remember, he's not spending this money now. He's asking for.
I know, I'm just saying, we start doing that, we need to look long-term at building additions onto these schools. If we're gonna do it with local funds. and not
If we
state.
build additions onto the school, I'll just point out that our cafeterias have to get bigger, our media centers have to get bigger, kitchens, cafeteria, I mean, those core spaces have to get big, and that's hard to do,
I
and
understand.
it's very costly.
But, like I said, my concern is the safety of those teachers and those kids that are in those classrooms.
I think another thing we're trying to do is sort of not to belabor the point, but get away from the single wide units if we can. It's not always feasible.
I agree with
And
that
get to
too.
a pod so that the students can be in that environment and there are restrooms in there, admin space, so it can be a little more self-contained.
Instead of doing 7 single wide and then a pod, can we reuse the single wides we currently have and put a pod in place of where those are? If there's 8 single wides, can we utilize those somewhere that need single wides and put one, just start buying pods instead of any single wides?
That would certainly be a goal, and some, quite honestly, are gonna have to come out of service. And that's why we have dispose of in there as well. Some of these mobile units are 20 years or more old. And so I think over the next several years, we kind of have to get into a little system of rotating some of that out. Either going with pods or new mobile units. Pods is preferable, certainly.
And our growth is shifting though too, so we have to have some flexibility.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we try to keep every piece of the puzzle on the table, that's from single wides to additions.
And
Where it
again,
makes
this
the
is a
most sense
guaranteed,
is what we try to go with.
this is a guaranteed maximum price, and we tried to really think about, I don't want to say the worst case scenario, but maybe the most costly scenario. And then hopefully, we back down from that, depending on what decisions are made, and we're not spending all that.
Want this on the consent agenda, or do we want to vote on it?
I had a call to jump in. I was going to say that is concerned.
I think we're all in line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, the next item is a vendor for mobile classrooms and pod units. Modular Solutions was approved as a vendor for mobile and pod units in November of last year. System Operations believes it's in the best interest of the school system to execute a change order to its current contract with Modular Solutions for the purchase, delivery, and install of new mobile classroom units. Cost savings are expected utilizing this approach due to the volatile nature of the market. This method will also provide for an improved delivery schedule for the units. If you recall, we brought this forward as an item of information at last month's meeting to talk about this different procurement route. Therefore, we're asking the superintendent to recommend approval of a change order to the current contract between Barrow County Schools and Modular Solutions out of Cumming, Georgia, to provide, deliver, and install mobile units in preparation for the 2023-2024 school year in the amount of $1,800,000.
Consent agenda? Basically
Yes.
the same topic, okay. CFIP.
Okay, our next item, CFIT Grounds Improvement Project. In May of 2019, Barrow County School System and Barrow Community Foundation entered into an agreement to allow for improvements to be made to the CFIT building and grounds, utilizing funds raised by the foundation. In March of last year, the BOE approved Barrow County Schools Business Services to receive funds from the foundation in order to make the improvements. Funds will be deposited into the school system account and distributed from there to engineers, contractors, and vendors in accordance with verified completion of project milestones. Barrow County School System Operations will review and approve each request for payment. The Barrow Community Foundation has worked with Barrow County Schools, Breed Love Land Planning, and Charles Black Construction to develop a phase 1 schedule and budget for site improvements at CFIT. Improvements include initial site work, erosion control, stormwater, paving, landscape, walking path, and destination playground. We have Philip Gosling here with us. I believe I saw Philip come in from the Barrow Community Foundation. Thank you, Philip, for being here. They've done a lot of work, done a great job. And so we're really excited to ask the superintendent to recommend a guaranteed maximum price of $3,300,000 for phase 1 of the Barrow Community Foundation site improvement project at CFIT.
Just for clarity, we need to make sure that everyone understands these are not school funds. They're coming from the Barrow County Community Foundation.
Correct.
Correct. We're passing through on ground. Nothing we won't spend, will not be spending anything unless there's money.
I mean, it's similar to
Yeah.
maybe the Innovation Amphitheater or the turf fields with the county where we receive the money from that entity and then we manage the project and expend the funds.
So we will vote on this tonight if.
Mr. Chairman, may I clarify why we're voting on this tonight? We've been working on this project, as you know, since before COVID, and we had to pause it during COVID. And Philip and the team of folks that have worked on this project have done a phenomenal job, and we're now ready to move to phase 1 and actually get the playground and these other things going. But we're running into a time crunch on the playground because some of the equipment has to be built. And it's going to take a while. We want to break ground on this in the spring so that our community can be using that playground in the summer.
We are voting.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I want, because I'm usually the one who says I hate voting on these except at regular meetings. But I think it's important that everybody knows that we intend to break ground on this and we need to get these work orders in process immediately to do, in order for them to build the equipment.
And my understanding too with that is there's some really unique pieces of the playground and sort of one of a kind things coming to Barrow County and Winder due to this. So it's really, the excitement's really ramping up to get these things going. So just pleased to do our part with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. These next 3 items are state closeout resolutions for recently completed projects. The Auburn Elementary School renovation project was completed in 2021. All of the necessary closeout documents have been received, final payments have been made. And by executing the state DOE certificate of the Board of Education document, the final 10% of state capital outlay funds can be released to us. That 10% amounts to $40,773. And so we're asking the superintendent to recommend final closeout of Auburn Elementary School renovation project.
Consent agenda?
Okay. Typically, these are going to come about a year after we complete the project, just to get through the warranty period and that sort of thing. The next one is closing out Holson Beck Elementary. We've got all the necessary closeout documents, final payments have been made. The return to the school system here will be $48,054. We're asking the superintendent to recommend final closeout of Holson Beck Elementary renovation project.
Consent agenda?
Okay, and the final one is for Appalachian High School. Same comments there about closeout documents, final payments. We're looking to execute that final DOE certificate This would return $117,637 in state capital outlay funds to our system. We're asking the superintendent to recommend final closeouts of Appalachian High School Phase 4 renovation project.
Consent agenda? Okay. Thanks, Joe.
Thank
Get
you.
you some water.
Thank-
Good job. Okay. This time, we're going to move into executive session to discuss and deliberate upon the appointment, employment, compensation, hiring, disciplinary action or dismissal, or periodic evaluation of a public or rating of a public officer or employee, or to interview applicants for the position of superintendent.
Yes.
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 Okay, we'll be back. Thanks.